You know what's underrated in today's noisy world? Being unbothered. By the way, not cold, not emotionless, just calm, grounded, unshaken. You want to change your life? Start by changing how easily you let things shake you. Let's talk about how to train yourself to be unbothered. Not numb, not passive, but powerful in your peace. You're not born with emotional control. No one comes into this world knowing how to stay calm in the face of chaos. That kind of inner strength, it's trained, it's earned, it's built in moments when you want to scream, lash out, or collapse. And instead, you pause, you breathe, you decide to respond instead of react. That's not a natural gift. That's a skill. Most people don't know that. They think calm people were just born with something they didn't get. They see someone who doesn't get rattled and assume, well, that's just how they are. But that's not the truth. That's a story you've been told to justify staying stuck in your emotional habits. Here's what's real. Emotional discipline is like going to the gym. You build it with reps. You get stronger the more you practice it. And like any workout, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be. You train yourself to be unbothered by doing the opposite of what your feelings want to do. When someone disrespects you, your emotions want to defend your pride. They want to jump in, fire back, prove your worth. But what do you actually gain from that reaction? Most of the time, nothing. You might feel momentary satisfaction, but afterward, you're drained, tense, and often left with regret. That's the emotional cost of being reactive. It always costs you more than it pays you. The people who seem calm aren't feeling less. They're managing more. They've built a kind of emotional filter, a mental system that checks their impulses before they become actions. That's discipline. That's control. And it doesn't come from stuffing things down or pretending not to care. It comes from knowing you're in charge of your emotions, not the other way around. Think about how often you've let a 5-second interaction ruin an entire day. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a passive-aggressive comment at work, a partner says something in the wrong tone. Suddenly, your peace is gone. But here's the truth. Your peace is not in their hands. It's in yours. You lost it not because of them, but because of how you chose to respond. That's the hard truth most people don't want to face. But if you want to grow, you have to face it. Every time you choose to react with anger, with anxiety, with defensiveness, you're strengthening the wrong muscle. You're teaching your nervous system that the outside world is in charge of your inner world. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can rewire your reactions. You can retrain your brain. Start small. You don't need a crisis to practice this. You can start with little things. The coffee shop gets your order wrong. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence. You're waiting in line longer than you expected. These are your reps. These are your emotional push-ups. In these moments, you choose. Do I react with frustration or do I stay grounded? Do I let my day be hijacked by inconvenience or do I hold on to my peace like it matters? Because it does. The best part? It gets easier. What feels unnatural at first eventually becomes automatic. You start to build a reflex of calm. Instead of snapping, you observe. Instead of spiraling, you breathe. Instead of retaliating, you pause. That's growth. That's strength. And it's available to anyone willing to do the work. But make no mistake, this isn't about being passive or weak. Training yourself to be unbothered doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you know how to protect your energy while handling things with clarity, not chaos. It means you can enforce boundaries without blowing up. It means you can walk away from drama without needing to win the last word. This mindset gives you freedom because when you stop being controlled by every little trigger, you take your power back. You stop being at the mercy of the world and instead become your own anchor. That's not emotionless. That's powerful. That's leadership. And that's a life skill most people never develop. Not because they can't, but because they never try. The truth is, most people are emotionally out of shape. They've spent years reacting without thinking, years letting their emotions make decisions, years letting the smallest things ruin their mood. But that can change. You can change it. And it starts today. It starts the next time you feel your blood pressure rise. The next time someone says something you don't like. The next time your plans don't go the way you imagined. In those moments, you ask yourself one simple question: who's in charge? Me or my emotions? The answer is always available and the choice is always yours. Train yourself to choose peace. Train yourself to pause. Train yourself to respond with purpose. Because emotional discipline isn't about becoming less human. It's about becoming a stronger one. Your peace is your power. That might sound simple, maybe even cliche, but sit with it for a moment. In a world that's constantly pushing, pulling, poking, and provoking, what if the most powerful thing you could do was not react? What if the strongest move in the room wasn't raising your voice, clapping back, or proving your point, but keeping your peace no matter what? Most people don't realize this. When you lose your temper, when you take everything personally, when you argue with people who don't want to understand you, you're not just losing time or energy. You're handing over your power. That's the trap. That's what people don't see. When you respond out of impulse, when someone gets under your skin and you snap, that's not strength. That's control slipping through your fingers. That's someone else owning your emotional state. And here's the truth. You only get one emotional thermostat. One. You either control it or everyone else does. And if you let every situation, every comment, every small inconvenience pull you into frustration or anger or anxiety, you've given up the one thing that actually keeps you grounded. Your peace. You want to know why this matters? Because your peace is what allows you to think clearly. It's what allows you to move with intention instead of reaction. It's the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. And that space, that calm, that self-retreat is where your true power lives. You can have all the intelligence in the world, all the talent, all the ambition, but if you're constantly bothered by noise, if your mind is always spinning because someone said this or did that, then all that potential gets buried under chaos. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your energy, your goals, your life, to stop giving your focus away to things that don't deserve it. Because not everything deserves a reaction. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Some people and some situations are only in your life to distract you from becoming who you're supposed to be. And the only way they win is if you engage. So ask yourself, how often do you let someone else's bad mood become your bad day? How often do you allow one comment to hijack your thoughts for hours? How many times have you paused your own peace just to prove you're right to someone who never had the capacity to understand you anyway? Let that sink in. Because here's the truth most people ignore. You don't always need to defend yourself. You don't always need to correct someone's opinion. You don't always need to step into the drama just because it knocked on your door. You are allowed to let things go without explaining why. You are allowed to walk away without justifying yourself. You are allowed to stay silent, not because you're passive, but because you know that peace is far more valuable than being right for 5 seconds. But here's the hard part. Peace is something you have to fight for. It doesn't come naturally in a world that rewards outrage, reaction, and noise. You've got to build it. You've got to protect it. You've got to train yourself to hold on to it when everything around you is trying to pull you into chaos. That means pausing when you want to snap. That means breathing when your ego wants to fight. That means choosing peace on purpose when your emotions want to win. It's not easy. It takes practice. It takes self-awarenesses. It takes knowing yourself so well that you can feel the emotion rise and still choose your response. Because when you master that moment, when you stay calm in the middle of the storm, when you stop explaining and start preserving, you stop leaking energy. And that energy, you get to put it back into your goals, your dreams, your healing, your growth. Think about what you could accomplish if you stopped giving your peace away to every little disruption. Imagine how much clarity you'd have if your mind wasn't constantly wrapped up in what someone else said, did, or thought. That's power. That's control. That's freedom. And it starts with a decision. The next time life throws you into a situation that feels triggering, don't just react. Take a beat. Remind yourself, my peace is more valuable than this moment. I choose me. I choose calm. I choose power. Train yourself to return to that mindset over and over again. Make it a habit, because eventually being unbothered becomes who you are. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And that's where the real shift happens. Not in what the world throws at you, but in what you're willing to carry. Not in how loud things get, but in how quiet you can stay inside. Remember, peace isn't weakness. It's wisdom, it's strength, it's power, and it's yours if you choose to protect it. Most people go through life thinking their reactions are automatic, like there's no space between what happens and how they respond. But that's just not true. The way you react emotionally, especially when you're angry, offended, anxious, or defensive, isn't some hardwired truth about who you are. It's a habit, a conditioned response you've repeated so many times, you don't even realize you're doing it. And here's the powerful part. Just like any habit, it can be unlearned and replaced. Let's get honest. When someone says something disrespectful or offends you, what do you normally do? You fire back. You raise your voice. You roll your eyes, shut down, or go into that spiral in your head where you replay the moment 100 times, thinking about what you should have said. That loop, that's not your true speaking. That's your conditioning. That's years of automatic programming you never question. Reactions feel real, yes, but real doesn't mean right. Just because something feels intense doesn't mean it's true or helpful. Your brain is constantly pulling from past experiences. It's scanning your environment and linking what's happening now to something that hurt you then. That's how your brain keeps you safe. But it also keeps you stuck, because now every disagreement feels like betrayal. Every critical comment feels like rejection. Every silence feels like abandonment. But is that really what's happening? Or is your nervous system just going on autopilot? See, most people don't realize this. Your emotional reaction is usually not about what's happening right now. It's about something unresolved from the past. That's why your response can feel way bigger than the situation deserves. It's not the person in front of you that's the problem. It's what they represent to your nervous system. A tone of voice that reminds you of being criticized as a child. A delay in a text response that triggers an old fear of being left out. These reactions are echoes. Echoes of moments that hurt you, that you never fully healed from. And now, they're running the show. The key is not to shame yourself for reacting. It's to recognize that your reaction is a signal. It's data. It's information telling you, hey, there's something here worth looking at. But instead of taking that moment to reflect, most people go right into action. They lash out. They get passive aggressive. They post something online. They vent to friends. They feed the drama. But here's what growth looks like. Pausing. Just pause. One breath, 1 second, one beat, where you say to yourself, okay, I feel triggered. Why? Not what did they do wrong, but what did this bring up in me? Because once you realize your reactions are habits, not truths, you unlock the ability to choose differently. That's power. That's freedom. It takes practice. Of course it does. It's not like you just snap your fingers and suddenly become emotionally bulletproof. This is about training. Every time you pause, every time you breathe through a reaction, every time you choose not to lash out, you're retraining your brain. You're showing your nervous system that it's safe. You're saying, I don't have to fight. I don't have to defend. I can observe, I can feel, and I can respond intentionally. That's emotional intelligence. That's self-mastery. Here's something else. Reacting quickly might feel good in the moment. It gives you a hit of control. You feel like you're doing something. You're protecting yourself. But afterward, regret, shame, exhaustion. You replay the conversation in your head. You overthink everything. You second guess what you said. That's the cost of reacting without thinking. On the flip side, when you choose to respond instead of react, something incredible happens. You feel proud of yourself. You feel steady. You feel calm. You realize that your peace wasn't stolen. It was given away. And now you've learned how to keep it. You realize you can let people say what they say and not let it shake your entire sense of worth. You stop needing to explain yourself all the time. You stop needing to have the last word. You stop chasing closure or revenge or validation. You just let go. That's what emotional discipline really is. It's not stuffing things down. It's not pretending you don't feel anything. It's feeling everything, but having the wisdom to not act on every feeling that passes through you. It's realizing that some reactions are just echoes from the past, not commands you have to follow. Reactions are habits, and that means you're not stuck with them. You can pause, you can choose, you can create space between the stimulus and the response. And in that space, you can become the kind of person who's truly unbothered. Not because you've shut down emotionally, but because you've built the emotional strength to stay calm no matter what chaos comes your way. You don't need to fix the world. You just need to master your response to it. That's how you take your power back. That's how you train yourself to be unbothered. You are not your triggers. That might sound simple, but let it sink in. You are not your triggers. What triggers you isn't a reflection of your weakness. It's a reflection of where healing still needs to happen. It's a reflection of where your emotional wounds are still raw. And when someone or something sets you off, it's not always because they did something wrong. Sometimes it's because you've still got something unresolved inside you that needs your attention. Most people live their entire lives reacting. Someone says something off and boom, they explode. Someone criticizes them and suddenly their whole day is ruined. A text message doesn't come when expected and anxiety takes over. That's what happens when you let your triggers define you. That's what happens when you don't understand that your reactions are a mirror, not a truth. When you get triggered, your body responds first, your heart races, your muscles tense, your thoughts speed up, but all of that is just your nervous system doing its job. It's scanning for danger, and sometimes it sees danger where there isn't any. Why? Because of your past. Because of that time someone humiliated you, because of the time you were ignored, abandoned, or belittled. And now, when something remotely similar happens, your brain says, it's happening again. That's not weakness, that's conditioning. But here's where the power lies. Once you become aware of that process, you no longer have to be controlled by it. You can pause, you can reflect, you can take a breath and ask yourself, why is this bothering me so much? That question is everything. That question is what separates emotional maturity from emotional chaos. Most people never ask it. They stay stuck in the loop, triggered, react, regret, triggered, react, regret. And they keep blaming other people for how they feel when the truth is their own mind is doing most of the damage. So let's be clear. You are not weak for having triggers, but you do become weaker when you let those triggers run your life. You have to be willing to face them. And I'm not talking about pushing them down. I'm talking about understanding them, because when something makes you feel angry, defensive, insecure, small, it's offering you a roadmap. It's saying, here's where you need to heal. Here's the spot that still hurts. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's a gift. The trigger is the teacher. And you're not going to grow until you stop running from it. Let's say someone gives you a piece of feedback and it hits a nerve. You get defense, you feel attacked. Pause right there. That moment, that's gold. That's not a sign that the other person is evil or cruel. That's a sign that there's something in you that needs your own attention. Maybe it's your ego, maybe it's an old wound from childhood, maybe it's just a belief you've never questioned before. Whatever it is, it's yours to explore, not theirs to fix. That's where accountability comes in. That's where real confidence begins. When you stop expecting the world to tiptoe around your emotions and instead you start owning them. You say, okay, that triggered me, but why? What story did I just tell myself? And is that story even true? Because most of the time it's not. Most of the time we get triggered not by the actual event, but by the meaning we assign to it. Someone ignores your message, your brain says, they don't care about me. Someone makes a joke, you hear, they don't respect me. But the reality, that's all your interpretation. And once you see that, you gain the power to shift it. You get to rewrite the story. You get to challenge the old patterns. And slowly, your triggers lose their grip. Being unbothered doesn't mean you never feel things. It means you've trained yourself to pause, to ask better questions, to lead with reflection instead of reaction. It means you can be deeply aware of what bothers you without letting it define your next move. When you stop identifying with your triggers, you stop making everything personal. And that's the freedom. That's the clarity. Because then someone can say something hurtful and instead of spiraling, you simply say, that's about them, not me. Or maybe it is about you, but now you've got the emotional intelligence to explore that with curiosity instead of shame. This is where true growth lives, in the quiet moments after the trigger, when you choose not to lash out, not to shut down, but to lean in and understand. That's where transformation happens. That's how you train yourself to be unbothered, not by avoiding the pain, but by learning from it. So the next time something pushes your buttons, stop and listen. That reaction, that emotion, that's the lesson. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Because healing doesn't come from pretending to be unbothered. It comes from choosing not to be ruled by the things that once broke you. And that choice, that's how you take your power back. External chaos will never end. That's the reality we all live in. There will always be things happening outside of you. Things you didn't expect, things you can't control, and things that test your patience, your values, and your strength. But if you want to grow, if you want to live a powerful life, here's what you have to understand. You don't need the world to calm down. You need to train yourself to calm down. We spend so much of our lives trying to fix, manage, or control what's happening around us. We try to get other people to act right. We try to plan every detail, script every outcome, and eliminate every possible disruption. And yet, no matter how hard we try, life keeps throwing curveballs. People disappoint us, plans fall apart, unexpected problems show up, and then what? We panic. We explode, we spiral because we've tied our peace to external conditions instead of internal control. But here's the truth. Peace is an inside job. If you wait for everything around you to be perfect before you feel calm, you will never feel calm. If your mood depends on traffic, coworkers, the news, your bank account, or someone else's opinion, then you're not living, you're reacting. You've given your power away to things you can't control. Training yourself to be unbothered means building strength on the inside so that the noise on the outside doesn't shake you. It means learning how to stay steady in the middle of chaos. And that's a skill. It's not something you're born with. It's something you practice every day. Life gives you 100 chances to practice this. The person who cuts you off in traffic, the email that rubs you the wrong way, the delay that ruins your schedule. These aren't just annoyances. These are opportunities. They are moments where you can either give your power away or claim it back. You can either let the situation decide your emotional state, or you can decide that for yourself. Here's what most people miss. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't care. It's not about being numb or indifferent. It's about being clear. It's about choosing how much energy you're going to give to something and how much peace you're going to keep for yourself. It's understanding that reaction is a choice. You don't control the weather, but you control your clothing. You don't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. In the same way, you don't control what people say, how they behave, or what happens around you, but you can control how you show up in the middle of it. And showing up with strength doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean snapping back. It doesn't mean proving a point. It means being centered. It means knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It means remembering that just because something invites a reaction doesn't mean it deserves one. Let's be real, life is unpredictable. You're going to get tested, people will misunderstand you, circumstances will frustrate you, but how you respond in those moments will determine how much peace you get to keep. And that peace is worth fighting for. Too many people spend their days drained, not because their lives are that bad, but because they leak energy in every direction. They respond to every comment, they absorb every opinion. They get emotionally tangled in things that don't even matter tomorrow. That's not strength, that's emotional exhaustion. Being unbothered is a sign of maturity. It means you've learned to separate what matters from what doesn't. It means you've stopped trying to fix everything and instead started mastering yourself. It means you're not waiting for peace to find you. You're creating it in the middle of the storm. This is a discipline, and like all disciplines, it requires repetition. It's built moment by moment, day by day, one conscious decision at a time. The more you choose peace over pride, presence over panic, and power over noise, the more you train your mind to stay grounded. You can't always change your environment, but you can always change how you process it. That shift is where freedom lives. Because once you stop depending on external conditions to feel calm, you become unstoppable. You become rooted, clear, focused. So next time life throws something at you, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this something I can control? Is my peace more valuable than this momentary reaction? And then choose your response. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to know what really matters. Peace isn't about escaping life. It's about mastering how you move through it. And that begins with letting go of the need to control everything outside of you and learning how to command everything within you. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of power. In a world where everyone feels the need to have the last word, to clap back, to prove a point, choosing silence can feel like you're doing nothing. But the truth is, silence is everything. It's a choice. It's a tool. And it's often the most intelligent response you can give in a world addicted to noise. When someone disrespects you, insults you, or pushes your buttons, your first instinct is to fire back. You feel that heat rise in your chest. You want to say something, anything to defend yourself. That's a natural human reaction. But if you constantly follow that reaction, you're not in control. Your emotions are. You're handing over your power to someone else every single time. Every time you react immediately, you're confirming that they have control over how you feel. And the truth is, they don't, unless you let them. Silence isn't weakness, it's restraint. It's strategy. When you choose not to respond, you're saying, this doesn't deserve my energy. You're saying, I know who I am, and I don't need to lower myself to match your chaos. That is power. That's confidence. That's self-respect. It takes strength to stay silent when your ego is screaming to speak. But you've got to ask yourself, what's the cost of constantly reacting? Because here's the deal. Not everything requires your attention. Not every insult needs a rebuttal. Not every rude comment deserves your time. You have limited emotional bandwidth every day. Why would you waste it proving something to people who don't even matter? Sometimes the best thing you can do is pause. Let them talk. Let them post. Let them gossip. Let them assume. You just keep moving. Keep growing. Keep working. Because while they're talking, you're building. That's what silence does. It protects your progress. It shields your mental peace. It keeps you focused. And silence doesn't mean you're accepting disrespect. It doesn't mean you're okay with what someone did. It means you've matured past the need to be reactive. You've decided that your growth matters more than winning a temporary fight. You've realized that most people want your reaction because it gives them a sense of power. Take that away, and they're left with nothing. It's about emotional maturity. People who haven't developed it will always think that loud means strong. But the truth is, real strength is quiet. Real confidence doesn't yell. It doesn't need to. When you're truly secure in who you are, you stop chasing every moment to defend yourself. You stop trying to fix everyone's perception of you because you know the people who matter don't need an explanation, and the ones who need an explanation don't matter. The more you grow, the more you realize that silence isn't just about holding your tongue. It's about holding your energy. It's about deciding what actually deserves your response. You can't afford to let every little thing rob you of peace. Some people thrive off your emotional reaction. They want to see you lose it. They want to pull you down into their storm. But when you stay calm, you rise above it. You become untouchable. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you pick your battles wisely. And most battles, they're just distractions. They take you away from your goals, your vision, your growth. You don't need to win an argument to win in life. In fact, the more successful you become, the less you'll argue. Because you start to understand time is precious, energy is sacred, and peace is non-negotiable. Silence also allows you to observe. When you're not speaking, you're listening, you're learning, you're watching how people operate, how they handle pressure, how they treat others. And that insight, that awareness, it's invaluable. You can't get that when you're constantly talking, reacting, trying to prove something. Silence lets you stay 10 steps ahead. And here's the most important thing. Silence gives you space to choose a response that aligns with your values, not just your emotion. It's not about being passive. It's about being intentional. You're not just reacting to what someone said. You're responding from a place of strength, calm, and clarity. That's the difference between someone who's driven by ego and someone who's led by purpose. So the next time someone tests your patience, the next time you feel the pull to lash out, to respond, to fire back, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, does this deserve me? Is this worth my energy? Or is silence the smarter choice? Because silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. It's full of power. And when you learn how to use it, you stop being dragged into drama and start stepping into control. You become harder to shake, harder to manipulate, harder to provoke. That's when you know you've trained yourself to be unbothered. Not because you don't feel, but because you've learned to rise above. Mindset is a daily choice. That might sound like a simple sentence, but it's the foundation for how you handle absolutely everything in your life. From how you deal with problems at work, to how you respond when someone disrespects you, to how you treat yourself when you fail. Your mindset shapes your actions, your emotions, your habits, and ultimately, your results. The mistake a lot of people make is assuming that mindset is fixed, that you're either mentally strong or you're not, that you either have it or you don't. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Your mindset is shaped by what you choose to focus on every single day. It's built through repetition, through action, through intention. You don't build a strong mindset by listening to one motivational speech. You don't become mentally tough because you read a book or had one good day. Just like a muscle, mental strength is built by showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. Every time you choose to keep going when it would be easier to quit, every time you stay calm when you want to snap, every time you decide to respond with grace instead of reacting with anger, you're building that mindset. And that's the thing. Mindset isn't about always being positive. It's not about faking a smile when you're struggling. It's about choosing how you interpret what's happening to you. It's about deciding that challenges are opportunities to grow instead of reasons to quit. It's about refusing to let outside circumstances dictate your inner world. Most people let life happen to them. They wake up, check their phone, scroll through social media, and let the world set the tone for their day. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, reactive, overwhelmed. If you start your day with chaos, how can you expect to be calm? If you don't set your own mindset, something or someone else will set it for you. And this is where the power of daily choices comes in. You get to decide how you show up. You get to decide what kind of energy you carry into your day. You get to decide if you're going to focus on what's wrong or what you can control. That decision doesn't guarantee the day will go perfectly, but it does guarantee that you won't be controlled by things outside of you. Training your mindset means developing habits that serve your emotional strength. It means building a morning routine that grounds you before the world grabs at your attention. It means being intentional about what you listen to, what you read, who you surround yourself with. It means pausing when you're triggered instead of reacting out of habit. And more than anything, it means staying consistent even when it feels pointless. Because that's where the breakthrough happens, in the boring, small decisions that no one else sees. When you choose to go for the run, even when it's raining. When you choose to show up to work with integrity, even when no one acknowledges it. When you choose not to reply to the person who disrespected you because you refuse to lower your standards. That's how mindset is built. Quietly, daily, relentlessly. Every day, life is testing you. It's throwing curveballs. It's giving you opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and focus. The more you respond with awareness and intention, the more natural it becomes. And eventually, what used to bother you won't even touch your peace. What used to trigger you will roll off your back. Why? Because you've trained your mind to stay rooted in purpose, not noise. And when you truly understand that mindset is a choice, you stop looking for quick fixes. You stop chasing motivation and start cultivating discipline. You start doing the hard things not because you feel like it, but because you've made a commitment to yourself. That's the turning point. When you realize that mindset isn't something you wait to have, it's something you create daily through your routines, through your reactions, through your refusal to be a victim of your own life. So yes, mindset is a daily choice, but it's not just a motivational quote. It's a call to action. It's a challenge to wake up and take responsibility for how you think, how you respond, how you lead yourself. And if you keep showing up, if you keep making those small, powerful choices, your mindset won't just shift, it'll transform your entire life. Self-respect feels better than retaliation. That's the kind of truth that hits different when you've actually lived it. We live in a world that rewards clapping back, speaking louder, and getting even. We're trained to think that silence is weakness and that if we don't say something, we're losing. But here's the reality. When you truly respect yourself, you don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove a point to anyone. You walk away not because you're defeated, but because you're rising above something that isn't worthy of your time or energy. Retaliation feels good for a moment. It gives you that hit of adrenaline, that brief sense of power. But what happens after? You're left drained, replaying the conversation in your mind, questioning if you said too much or too little, wondering if it even changed anything. Spoiler alert, it usually doesn't. It just keeps the fire burning. And the longer you feed that fire, the more it consumes you, your peace, your focus, your growth. But when you respond with self-respect, something shifts. Instead of reacting, you pause, you breathe, you check in with yourself and ask, is this really worth it? 9 times out of 10, it's not. Because someone who truly respects themselves doesn't hand over their power to chaos. They don't let someone else's behavior dictate their peace. They decide consciously to value their energy enough to walk away. That kind of power is quiet. It doesn't look flashy. It's not loud, but it's unshakable. It's rooted. And the people who carry it, they're the ones who can walk into a storm and stay calm. Not because they don't feel the chaos, but because they've learned that chaos doesn't deserve their reaction. They've trained themselves to recognize that every moment spent retaliating is a moment stolen from their own growth. Retaliation is about control. It's about trying to change how someone else sees you, feels about you, talks about you. But the truth is, you can't control any of that. What you can control is how you carry yourself, what you tolerate, what you rise above. That's what self-respect looks like. It's not flashy, it's solid. It's the foundation that keeps you standing tall when others are throwing dirt. When someone disrespects you, mocks you, or underestimates you, your silence doesn't mean they won. It means you know that entertaining their nonsense would be a betrayal of yourself. You respect yourself too much to get dirty in battles that don't serve your future. You don't need to fight back. You just need to keep moving forward. That's the real win. Not the argument, not the last word, the growth, the peace, the ability to keep your head high and your energy clean. People will always have opinions. Some will misunderstand you, some will disrespect you, some will try to provoke you just to get a reaction. But the person who's truly powerful doesn't take the bait. They see the trap. They recognize it's not about them. It's about the other person's chaos, insecurity, or need for validation. And instead of engaging, they choose their dignity. Now that choice isn't always easy. Sometimes you want to scream. Sometimes you want to defend yourself. But every time you choose self-respect over retaliation, you build emotional strength. You become more in control of yourself. You train your mind to stay focused on what actually matters: your goals, your peace, your future. Let's be honest. Anyone can snap back. Anyone can raise their voice. That's not strength. That's reflex. What takes strength is staying calm, choosing silence when you could unleash chaos, choosing peace when you've been handed a reason to rage. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's emotional maturity. That's someone who knows exactly who they are and refuses to shrink themselves to match someone else's level. Eventually, you realize that people's opinions don't define you. Your reaction to their opinions, that's what defines you. And when you choose self-respect, you're telling the world, I know my worth. I don't need your validation, your approval, or your praise to feel powerful. I bring my own power with me everywhere I go. It's not about never standing up for yourself. It's about knowing when it's truly worth it. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. Not to avoid conflict, but to preserve your energy for something greater. Something that actually matters. Your vision, your peace of mind, your purpose. Self-respect is long-term. Retaliation is instant gratification. One feels good in the moment. The other builds a life you can be proud of. So the next time you're tempted to strike back, ask yourself, do I want to feel powerful for a second? Or do I want to be powerful for the rest of my life? Because real power isn't loud. It's not reactive. It's quiet. It's steady. And it's deeply rooted in self-respect.